Hello, everyone. Testing, testing. We're going to be looking at age 110 changes, proposed changes. We got no camera, 'cause my camera's been pooping out the last couple videos. I haven't fixed it. And I just want to say how very stupid it is for David to post Genesis changes right after proposed changes, because now anyone going to the forums just going to see this right here instead of proposed changes, but I'm not in charge of anything like that. But also it's not age 1110. Oh, I read through these pretty quick in the shower. So I got an idea of what's going on. There's some okay and some bad, and we'll get over all that. So, yeah, a little preamble. Hopefully it's not AI. I'm not even going to bother thinking about it. General mechanics. Watchtowers are buffed. I believe this is what watchtowers used to be at. I think maybe thievery damages or something got slightly nerfed at the same time watchtowers got nerfed, or that was within a couple ages of each other. So we're buffing watchtowers. I think this is just due to the general idea that people be night striking a lot, and they prefer to night strike over chain, and it's primarily happening to core. I don't actually see many TMs run into thievery ops, so is what it is. I think it's a decent change. I don't mind that. I don't think it's gonna suddenly make mystics extra overpowered or anything. I don't think it's gonna shut rogues or heretics out of the game. Barracks, attack time no longer affected by build efficiency. That's a weird one. Um, it makes barracks worse as the age goes on for at least some races, but it's sort of just a big nerf to dwarf and like a buff to like orcs, which is weird. Like orcs always struggle with build space and build efficiency. So having buffed watchtowers and buff barracks to put on your orcs is nice, I guess. So, not bad. Um, do 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 do. Slight buff to castles. I think this is just so people can sync. I don't think it's actually meant to balance anything. It does sort of suck for dwarves though, and uh, you still have to deal with the fact that people gain and lose different amounts of land, but I just think this is so when everyone has 10% barracks, but their build efficiencies are off by 5, 10, 20%, that we still get same attack times. So yeah, not bad. I think it's fine. Hmm. I don't know if castles need a buff. I think castles are actually pretty strong in the hands of anyone with decent BE. You run into a dwarf with 15% castles mid-age on, it's just brutal to attack through them. It's like minus 40% gains, and it really doesn't cost him much land. So, I don't know if that's entirely necessary. I mean, people don't build a lot of castles, so I guess I get it. Like, they're underutilized. I don't think it's necessarily because they're bad, I just think they're underutilized. There's just other things that feel more important, and it's hard to tell in the moment. Um, the problem with castles is twofold. One, if you have a bunch of castles on a bunch of provinces and those provinces don't get hit, it's just wasted land. And two, castles don't do anything about getting massacred. Um, so I used to run into big castle builds a lot more often. I don't know, like 20 ages ago, 15 ages ago. And I ran into a big group of core that were running like really high castles and watchtowers. I'd just exclusively hit their TMs because they're wasting a lot of land securing their core. So we'll see how that works. New Ritual Ascendancy, double wizard production, no wizard losses on spells. That barely matters. I guess that's just, if you're paradising on 10% guilds, you don't explode. I don't like this at all. Because the people who aren't gonna get hit are the people that can survive with this. The people who aren't gonna get hit don't need double wizard production. It's just really gonna cement certain kingdoms' strength over everyone else. I mean, it's fine if everyone has access to that in End of War Ceasefire. I don't mind that, but it just feels like the only people who are going to be able to use that effectively out of war are probably the people you don't want to have double wizards, but we'll see how things pan out. And we're up to avians. Looks like avians got a big poop down their face. Yeah, so avians lost like everything good about them, I guess. They lost clear sight. They lost their unique ability, which was really strong. They lost one offense on their O-spec. Explain that to me. And they gained the ability to ignore castles. Well, if someone knows they're warring avians, they already know they don't need castles. So, like, I guess if you split avians with another race, you war someone, they might still want castles. Sure. I guess out of war can be good for trading hits and like micros and stuff, but yeah, this is Avian just getting a big shit on them because they lost a really good spell, a really good ability, and an O-spec doesn't matter that much, but yeah, this will make Avians a lot worse, unless we see likewise nerfs on other races. We'll probably see a lot less Avian. Now, immunity to ambush, attack time, and decent offense is always sort of good enough. But avians are going to struggle a lot against TM walls, and just in general, without that unique ability, it really helped. So, yeah, avian's still decently strong, but yeah, they did get the nerf a bit. Dark Elf looks about the same. No rune cost, 15 WPA, thieves with credits, same list of spells, same unique ability, same D-spec, same elite. They actually lost one to their O-spec, which is actually pretty bad because you see a lot more Dark Elf hybrids and attackers than you see pure. So yeah, pretty big nerf on Dark Elf there. Again, they've got things that are really good for them. They've got the spells and the free casting and the WPA. Those are all, super good bonuses, but yeah, they got nothing going for them militarily. So I think they're going to struggle a bit. We've already seen that Dark Elf hybrids suck. We see it every age. They just die. They just get chained really easily. And the thing about having a bunch of self spells and like WPA bonuses and rune cost bonuses, none of that matters when you're 200 acres and land lusting every tick. Guess what? Every orc in the game can do that too. So yeah, not sure I love that. So a little nerf on Dark Elf, sort of in line with Avian. Dryad. Dryads are looking pretty similar. 10% OME, DME, wages are always paid. That's the same. Minus 20% TPA instead of minus 30% is a slight buff. Still minus 15% income. O-spec, D-spec. Elites are the same. Costs are the same. Access to Bloodlust? Oh, so Dryad also got Bloodlust. And their unique ability got double strength and reduces build efficiency. So, yeah, and Dryad's probably just, I'm just going to say it without thinking or doing math, Dryad's probably overpowered. Anytime you double something and add a bonus, and add a bonus, this is like I was talking last stage when it's like, okay, look at Orc. It lost this penalty, it gained this bonus, it gained this bonus, and then everyone picks Orcs. I'm going to assume the Dryad's just overpowered in this situation because Bloodlust is just really good. The thing about having a lot of offense and Bloodlust is that you're just going to attack a lot more. So your Dryads are going to kill more defense and have more offense. So guess what? They're going to start hitting a lot more often. It's not going to be using 2 gens. You're going to be using 4 gens a wave. And now, with the ability to nuke people's population just that much harder, building efficiency seems pretty good. Also, the fact that the building efficiency works on multiple attacks per wave is funny. So if you did hit 4 separate people, you'd hit 40% worth of build efficiency. Not likely to happen, not that interesting compared to something like Plague, but alright. Dryad seems good. Just throw some barracks on them or something, and you're probably happy. I didn't notice that in my first read through, but yeah, access to Bloodlust alone is really strong. Dwarf! 30% build efficiency, minus 50% construction time, Miner's Mystique, Earthshaker, no speed building, no big food consumption, exact same military, exact same bonus, so dwarves are unchanged. I thought dwarves are in a pretty decent spot last stage. You know, they didn't maybe quite match up to the levels of Avian and Orc in most situations, but I think if you nerf Avian and you nerf Orc, Dwarf is in a perfectly fine spot. The only thing is that barracks hit on them is actually going to be pretty significant. So, like, attack speed's one of the most important things in the game right now, and one of the best thing Dwarf had going for it was it could build a lot of barracks pretty easily. So now without that, it's just you're sort of forced into that turtle slow dwarf, which again is its own path to success, but a little bit different, I think. All right, elf, OP elf. Um, Looks like elf is completely unchanged, except they lost 1 on their D-spec. Which is pretty big. I mean, Elf was primarily picked as a pure TM. Losing 10% defense is a huge kick in the nuts. You know, you're going to have to run 16 and a half D-specs per acre instead of 15. It's going to cut into your peasants, going to cut into your thieves, your wizards. But they still have that +2 mana tick and WPA and spells and casualties. I think as far as mana output's concerned, they're just so far above the rest that you're going to see plenty of strong elves. I think with seeing an avian nerf and potentially a orc nerf, elf is looking even stronger because you can survive with that lower defense a little better. So yeah, we'll see. Elf, I think, is still pretty strong. I think you can actually sort of survive on 10 D-specs per acre. And you know, they buffed watchtowers, so you can just sort of finagle a few more forts and homes into your build. Alright. Very. I went through this list because I was bored earlier. The only thing they lost was Miner's Mystique. which I don't even know if you cast that very much in war, but out of war and an end of war ceasefire, you're losing out on 10% extra gold. Sort of significant for those Tree of Gold pumps, but not huge. They still got the spell duration, extra mana in war, minus 10 pop, same elite. Their O-Spec got nerfed. I don't understand why Age Council just hates the idea that Fairy get a moment of hybrid in them. Because they removed... they removed Bloodlust, and now they have -1 O-Spec. I don't really understand why. And they also show his no net worth warhorses still, but anyways, they no longer have permanent super Mystic Vortex. They now have an auto succeed once a day, auto remove Mystic Vortex, which is pretty good. The auto succeed part is nice, but honestly, it's a pretty big nerf compared to just always working. Because like 9 times out of 10, you're a caster as a fairy anyways. You got pretty good WPA. So outside of those situations where you're like crushing your face into an elf mystic that you need to Mystic Vortex, which you're not gonna need to do really. So, yeah, I think Mystic's pretty good. I think with elf losing 1 to the D-spec, Fairy is probably a better Mystic right now. I think Elf still has maybe a slightly better case on other TMs, not Mystic, but we'll see, we'll see. Mystics seem pretty good to me. I mean, Fairy. So, what do you know? Gnome. Gnome is completely different. So now, successful attacks stack 5% extra casualties. I assume that's offense and defense. So if you make 4 attacks, you are slowly doing more kills, and people hurt more when they attack you, I guess. Minus 15% training time. Um, their ability is once a day for 6 hours. They can add 10% more military casualties. They pay extra wages. 25% extra wages. They can't use barracks or castles. Their military is a 9/9 spec with a 10/8 elite. Completely worthless. F tier, literal trash garbage. Let's move on. Like that, like it. What are you talking about? They have no pop space anymore, so they're literally just an attacker that has 20% or less offense, is restricted in many ways, and has literally no benefits to them whatsoever. You know what's better than 20% extra casualties? 20% more offense. Jeez Louise. So yeah, I don't know what someone was thinking with Gnome here, but they clearly missed something. Because this is worthless trash. And you know, whoever's love child was Gnome, I don't know if you were just worried about getting too strong or you forgot something, but yeah, this is not good. Halfling. Halfling is unchanged, except they got +1 to their D-spec. So Halfling's too strong right now. I'll just tell you that. With +1 D-spec, I mean, not in the last age, but, you know, the most successful kingdom, sort of, this age, 109, is running, you know, several halfling rogues, and they're all marquises, and they're crushing people. So it's probably a good hint that they don't need +1 D-spec. But, I don't know. Considering we've got a ritual with double wizard production, you probably shouldn't be handing people 10% population and full strength defense with all these other benefits. if you're also going to make sure that they're 4.5 WPA, which they can fit because they have a pop bonus. So, yeah, with Elf getting nerfed, Halfling getting buffed, you're probably looking at a lot of Halfling rogue types with a couple Fey Mystics. You know, it's what you usually see, but I would say at the very least you're going to have to knock 5% off that population buff. But yeah, Halfling looks incredibly strong. 15% population without any real nerf is pretty significant. And their ability sneak attack, which is, you know, no losses on T ops, is incredibly strong. Just hitting that first tick of war with, you know, plus 25% damage, no loss prop and AW is pretty crazy. Even things like Steel War Horses. So yeah, interesting. Human plus 25% science efficiency, which is down from 30%. They lost their plus income, which, I mean, it's probably good. Stacking that much science efficiency with income gets a little bit funky, because you'll end up with, like, plus 50% income science anyways. They appear to have greater protection twice on here, but same spells. Their penalty is down from 80% to minus 50% on defense. At minus 50%, I would say that on average, humans will have the same WPA as enemy core. Because it's not, well, maybe not quite the same, but like pretty close. I think a human with 50% better science on channeling and maybe 3 raw instead of 2 raw WPA sort of thing is not unlikely. And at that point, they're going to be probably better WPA'd than others. They got a +1 offense buff to their elite, which also had its net worth dropped a lot. I don't know if that's intentional, but that's utterly broken. You can't have an elite that is that low on net worth on a science race, because they're already like, one of the ways they're balanced is that they bloat. Anyways, their unique ability, which last age I thought was probably one of the strongest unique abilities, but we just didn't really see humans get run, is now that successful attacks grant 1 tick of science and generate 1% max pop as peasants. I'm just gonna look in this other screen here at my max pop and think what 1% would be. Yeah, okay. It's gonna be like a quarter of a PPA. I guess that makes sense. If you're 25 PPA base up to like 30. So if you're in the trenches, yeah, I think that's strong. I think that's really strong. Um, and you get bonus science in war, but it caps at a lower amount probably than your average. Well, I guess you don't get 30 attacks in war. Yes. Um, I think that's strong. I think it's strong and abusable. I would say, based on what I've read, I'd put humans as the strongest core so far. Um, so let's see what Orc has to give us. Yeah, that human looks really strong to me. Orc. Orc looks unchanged. 30% gains, 50% draft, elites with credits, bloodlust. The exact same unique ability with the mini plunders and the casualty returns. They have the same minus credits, the same building efficiency, which means that their racks are buffed, remember? They have the same military, and the only change is they have minus 10% TPA WP. So orcs are still really good. I think a lot of people probably last age learned how not to play Orc, and so maybe Orcs will be better, but you'll also have a lot of people that are just sort of bored of Orcs, or they didn't like the mechanic where they just seem to bloat really hard. But I think Orc is incredibly strong, at least as strong as human, maybe stronger like this. Um, so yeah, that's the exact same Orc. Um, and with buffed watchtowers and buffed barracks, I think that's going to be a pretty good day for orcs. You also have, nerfed elves, but elves weren't really great at countering orcs, right? Like, having a shitload of mana is great for farming honor and, general attrition, but orcs are getting a lot of their, oomph done in that first little while, and you sort of got to focus on ways to knock down their offense. So, I think a more thievery heavy sort of build is usually what you want to work against orcs. So, yeah, we'll see. The one thing with orcs is that they're always going to be hitting you for land. They're always going to have some net worth problems for hitting you in range. So, the one thing you have going for you is that you can always find someone to land lust, and you just got to find a way to make sure your defense doesn't drop too hard. So, yeah, strong orcs, strong orcs. Undead are back. Undead, as I read this, no longer have regular plague. Um, anyways. Undead, minus 50% casualties. That's offense and defense. Incredibly strong bonus off the bat. That's one of the strongest bonuses you'll see in the game. Uh, immune to plague, which is fine. No food, which is nice. Makes dragons sometimes weird. Enemy casualties turn into soldiers at a rate of 25%. That's pretty high. As long as you're not attacking other undead, but that's pretty strong. Gaining free population's always really strong in my eyes. Regular O-spec converts is nice, especially in war and stuff. Anyone who's attacked by undead gets negative birth rate. They have Nightfall, which is a spell. Oh, my first read through that was an ability, like attack ability, and reduces guild and tower effectiveness by 50%. I mean, that's a weird spell. I think it's probably decent to try and blanket. Um, yeah, just keeping that on fat core is going to be a huge pain. 'Cause selfies are going to get expensive and fail a lot, and they're not going to be supplying runes to people. Um, if you were like an undead mystic and you were casting this on enemy rogues and stuff, that could be a pain as well. The thing is, you're never really, as an undead, going to be able to cast that on any other casters, I guess. So I think it's got value. It's a little bit weird. I think it's a nice sort of spell. I like it. I don't know how strong it is. It might be pretty strong. Unique ability. Cursed Plague. So once a day, that tick, all their attacks spread plague. Cannot be cured via nature's blessing. I don't know if that's for one tick or ever, because if that's forever, that's obviously low IQ brain dead maneuver. 'Cause are you literally forcing every TM to have uncurable plague? Or are you forcing all TMs who ever wore any undead to either never get hit even once or to have 24-hour plagues on them? That just doesn't make sense. Um, And undead, you'll see, have no other way of spreading plague. Um, at least not in what's going on here. So, yeah, this is bonkers. This is just one of those things that someone thought sounded cool, but is really bonkers. Now, undead, I'm talking about how this is all bonkers and stuff. They got some pretty rough things out of war. They're losing 1% of their military and wizard base per day. Let's just go over here into Google and do a little bit of that. So, yeah, 99% iterated 24 times. Yeah, it's like 21%. So it's not that much different than just flat 1%. You can think of that as losing almost a quarter out of war. But as soon as you're in war, that stops. So whatever. Um, yeah, this is a weird one. Um, if you enter any war being like modestly well trained, you're probably just gonna win. I don't think there's any doubt to that. But yeah, maintaining wizards is going to be impossible. Even maintaining your full military is going to be sort of impossible out of war. But the things you have going on are crazy. Um, so yeah, not sure what to do with this. Um, like if you're in a hostile with a bunch of undead, you can just sort of like never war them, I guess. uh, so yeah, very weird. Um, I would say this is just not gonna work out, but there's some decent ideas. I don't really know how to analyze that because, on their face, their offense isn't insane at a 12-point elite with regular horses. So it's not like they're necessarily breaking TMs, especially if they're losing 20% of their offense a day out of war. Like, what? Um, but if you just sort of go out there hitting stuff nonstop and you're constantly getting soldiers and getting elites and converts and credits, and maybe it's okay. You, yeah, if you get into war decently pumped, you're gonna do just fine. Um, and this might be like the ultimate sort of bait strategy is you just run undead and you know, within a couple days, people are just going to want to war you because you look like shit. But then once you get into war, you're really strong. So it's all sort of weird. Maybe you just run like a couple undead and you work really hard to keep them going. And because, like, listen, if you have guaranteed plague, and best I can tell, this plague can't. Like, does this plague then spread to other people if they get plague? Like, it's all very weird what's going on here. Like, if I plague someone and then I start chaining them, do my guys get uncurable plague as well? I mean, we got hospitals at least, but it's very odd. But I could see a build where you run, like, a token amount of undead, like one or two or three. Maybe you run them as, like, artisans or warriors or war heroes, some way where they just got a little more oomph and sustain and offense. And now all of your chains have guaranteed minus like 15% defense. Like that's unbelievably overpowered. But then like are you plaguing yourself with uncurable plague? Does that mean everyone needs to run 25% hospitals all the time? I don't know. It's all very awkward. Now maybe that's the name of the game. Maybe you just want something that's a little bit of a wild card, but yeah, it's something. I think there's going to need to be a little bit more flushing out happening here. Flushing out undead. Very good. Anyways, that's the races. Um, Now I'm gonna be making fun of people again as I get into the personalities, because whoever's working on the unique passives is getting a little silly again. Artisan looks to be unchanged, except they get a buff to their credit generator engine. I'll have to talk to some artisans from last age and see how it worked out. I've got no opinion on this whatsoever. I didn't see an artisan, I didn't play an artisan. I didn't hear anything about artisans through the age, so I'm guessing they're forgettable. No one serious ever seems to run artisans, except semi-regularly. Barco will mix artisans and warriors. Um, so, they probably have some value, but oh well. Cleric is unchanged. Except now 50% of the time they get a 10% rune refund. Isn't that amazing, guys? Isn't it amazing that when clerics cast self spells, which they do like once every 60 hours, that they get a 10% rune refund half of the time? Isn't it amazing to have effectively a 5% rune refund on your already free self spells? Sorry to be a dick here, but like what is this? Who's like, yeah, you know what would really change age 110 for the better? Let's slap a 5% rune refund on the cleric. Yeah. Like I don't get it, man. Clerics are strong. There's a lot of really strong clerics across the server. They mesh really well with a lot of different picks. Um, they're really strong. They've been really strong in this age and last age and the age before that. So, it's sort of just the all-encompassing core pick. It gives you a lot of mitigation and defense. You get that little bit of a science boost. You can turn defense into offense, and you can just run tanky. Um, Mitigation to spells and thieves and minus casualties. It's really got everything. Um, and just having a little bit of extra mana always, because you've got cheap self spells and you've got cheap self spells mixed with like long duration self spells, means you're just always getting that much more mana left over for landlusts. Is really strong. Does anyone run any fairy clerics just for the two togs, a tick, and war? Probably not. Anyways, yeah, cleric's really strong. Not really, like, no change there at all. Heretic. So we lost the necro type thing, and heretics are back to being nightmare casters, but with greater arson and without fool's gold. So, sort of a standard heretic, but no science buffs, so they're not scaling. Like, this is still only gonna be picked for nightmares, just like the necro last age. But here's this great passive, which doesn't have a space after it, and inconsistencies between where you're adding colons and not. Blasphemous Might. When successfully casting an offensive spell, the heretic has a 10% chance to refund 50% of the mana spent. Isn't that great, guys? Isn't it great to have a 5% buff to mana? It's like, alright, you're at 100% mana, and you cast 45 nightmares, and 30 of them are successful. And 3 of those are gonna refund 1 mana. Isn't that amazing, guys? Isn't it so great? that you gained 1.5 nightmare casts out of your max mana. Wow, what an amazing unique passive you have. Like, I just can't help it. And it gets so much worse when we read Mystic and Rogue because the exact opposite happens. They're just utterly overpowered. And it's like, what are you talking about? Who is making these balance decisions? Like, do you have no, like, ability to compare things in your head? Oh. Um, yeah, people aren't gonna pick Heretic unless they want Nightmare. Uh, because Heretic offers nothing that isn't done better by Mystics or Rogues. So yeah, there you go. Mystic. Standard Mystic, except for some reason we're giving Mystics minus to rune costs. I don't think they need that, but it's pretty minor, 15%. Oh well. But like, I don't know if you need that. It's just sort of a small thing to add, and it's not like Mystics are weak and need buffs. I still hate, I like absolutely hate that Fool's Gold is attached to Mystic, because it's just awful for the balance of the game that all hostilities can necessarily destroy all gold because Mystics always have the best WPA. All Mystics have Mage's Fury, so you can cast anything you want on other Mystics, and you have Fool's Gold. Just hundreds of mana of top WPA Fool's Gold always. It's just awful design. And I went on a rant on this last age too, but whatever. Mystic, unique passive, Magician's Insight. Once activated for the next 4 ticks, all spells cast by the Mystic have double duration and cost 0 runes. So, it's always good to mix having 0 cost runes with minus 15% rune cost, because that makes sense. But, like, what do you mean you're just giving double duration to that many spells? Like, what are you talking about? You're gonna cast 30 spells with double duration? Like, is the whole point of this just to make it so everyone's really interested in having fucking, like, a ton of intra Mystic Vortex? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, double duration. So, we made Mystics able to, like, people, like, there's no easy to cast ET on a Mystic. People aren't casting Sabotage Wizards, and if they are, it's really not that big a deal. So Mystics have essentially all 0 cost runes, so, why why bother even being a Dark Elf when you could just be a Mystic of a different race? Free cost runes that do double duration, so double damage effectively, because you're casting duration spells, the damage is the duration. Like, what are people talking about? And if, like, the intent is to enable counterplay with Mystic Vortex, it's like, okay, great, I guess. It's a good thing that we removed the ability for fairies to have Mystic Vortex. Like, it's so absurd. And then you're just thinking, well, does that mean a fairy has 250% duration? Are we literally casting 24-hour long meteor showers on people? Like, I don't get it. And, like, it means you're only going to need 2 mystics to cover every spell. And, like, sure, maybe that makes you vulnerable this way or that, but, like, that just means you're going to be able to have, like, 8 rogues and somehow not lose a single bit of anything to, like, you're not giving up any casting ability. So you're giving everyone insane magic abilities for free. And then, like, saying, hey, now everyone gets to run a bunch of rogues, which means that everyone's going to be night striked, which means that, like, what's this game even anymore? And you compare that Magician's Insight to Blasphemous Might, which is a refund of 5% of your mana on successful spells only. It's just so funny. I can't. Like, fuck. people give me shit for when I go off like this on the rants, and they're like, "That's mean. You shouldn't be mean." And it's like, I don't want to be mean, but like, did a child make these? Did someone that plays Utopia make these? I mean, okay, it's proposed. They just want to put out ideas and see if people like the ideas, and they're not super focused on the balance. That's the argument back. But like, can't you at least try? Anyways, let's look at Rogue. 80% thieves' dens, stealth recovery, all thievery operations, plus 25% damage to assassinate wizards for some reason. And you can skip watchtowers. So here's the funny thing. I talk about how hilarious it is that your mystics got, like, you only need 2 of them. But now every rogue can get 100% success on assassinate wizards with 25% bonus damage, and if they're a halfling, they have 0 losses. it's, it's and again, you compare skipping watchtower damage to like the thing is, something like this would be way less powerful if we had instant ET, because you would know that they're waiting 24 hours. But with the constant ET thing, it's like, well, the last 12 hours they'll tank it and they'll lose 12% stealth over those 12 hours. But like, 0 watchtower effects and 0 T losses is just so incredibly strong. The Night Strike damage is going to be so insane. Like, you're going to be able to run hybrid rogues and just utterly wreck people. You're going to be able to crush other rogues. You're going to, like, everything is so easy right now for mystics and rogues. And meanwhile, it's like we nerfed half of the core for some reason. But yeah, someone's going to have a lot of fun playing, various halflings and fairies. Ah. But yeah, you can't have ignore watchtower effects. And I'll tell you the real reason why. About 10% of Utopia's player base is an elf mystic that's never done anything other than be an elf mystic, training D-specs and casting some spells. And they expect to never have anything bad happen to them ever. They've been playing for 20 years. They've only played a pure D-spec, 25% watchtower elf mystic, and they never get chained and they never get AW'd, and they're not that effective, so nobody minds just ignoring them. But then when you add the ability to ignore watchtowers into the game, and they just lose all of their wizards the first tick of war, and all of their honor, they're literally gonna quit Utopia. Like, you're gonna lose like 100 Mystic Onlys players in one age because of this. And the fact that they buffed Halfling, and Halfling has so much pop, which means that you can just force high raw TPA, which means that the prop damage is just going to be insane. The assassinate wizards are going to be insane because you're always going to have enough thieves. You're always going to succeed. You're not going to be able to run, 6 TPA and high thieves dens as a mystic, because your only options for mystics are elves that got their defense nerfed and fairies with a population nerf. So like, love it. Tactician. I didn't even look at these guys. I think around the rogue, I just gave up in the shower and started laughing. Um, Weird. I don't even know what that means. Uh, when you attack someone for 4 ticks, their training time is increased by 20%. Okay. That's worthless. So Tactician got a big nerf because their unique ability went from slaying dragons for free to doing nothing, which is good, I guess. And they also got nerfed because they used to have a big siege buff, which was actually really strong, and now they have a smaller valor buff, which is good for token dragon slayers. It's not really as good in mass, so yeah, two big nerfs to Tactician, while Cleric's untouched. You know, Tactician's been overpowered for a while, so I think it's probably mostly fine. And that does sort of hurt the orcs a bit who love running Tacticians. So, a little bit of balance there, but maybe a bit heavy-handed. Maybe give them a unique ability that isn't stupid. War Hero. War Hero, their minus honor losses were slightly reduced. That's probably a good change. I am the only War Hero Kingdom this age, and I coasted to a presumed honor crown just by virtue of the pick. If no one else picked it, we were basically guaranteed it. I mean, the age isn't over, and like, don't put my foot in my mouth. There's a lot that could happen, but it's still the case that with these picks that War Heroes will win honor if no one else picks War Hero. Um, their new ability, their old ability used to be 12 ticks of double honor bonuses. Now, for 6 ticks, your attacks get 50% more credits, and you get 5% more military efficiency. So, for 9 ticks. Wait, what? So, when you activate it, you get 6 ticks of bonus credits, but 9 ticks of military efficiency? That's weird. Um, well, the 6 ticks is so that you can only ever use it for 1 attack a day. But the 9 ticks means that if you're a avian, or you're attacked and you got racks, or you got haste or whatever, you're probably able to hit that for 2 out of every 3 attacks on the military efficiency. That's interesting. I'm not sure if that's better or worse. I think that's probably a slight nerf, but um, when you're out of war and you're just sort of making big attacks now and then, the bonus credit thing's really scary. Like, if you just run aggressive and you get that 50% bonus credits, like, you can sort of stack an insane amount of credits on your province doing stuff like that. Huh. That's no, that's just got to be worse. The double honor bonuses for 12 hours is definitely better. But 5% military efficiency for 9 ticks. So if you have 8-hour attack times exactly, and you attack at, 8, 16, 24 every day, 8, 16, 24, 8, 16, 24. This would be in war, of course. And on the 24th of every year, you activate your war trophy. That means that you have, on the 24th and the 8th, you are in that 9-tick zone, and you can cycle it. So 2/3 of all attacks, you have plus 10% OME. And that's really strong, right? That's essentially being a warrior. Plus, you're going to have 5 to 10% DME for different amounts of the day. So that's pretty good. If you compare that honor, it's not quite as good. I was hoping that they would fix the OME gains on honor. So it's between For it's between V count and count. The effect of 5% military efficiency in terms of offense versus the 12 tick of before, with it being honor doubling. You don't get those other effects, which are of course nice, but I think easier to overlook. So yeah, I think it is a slight nerf, and I think it warranted a slight nerf. I think War Hero was just too easy to coast with. Um, but this bonus here is really encouraging you to be able to attack in under 9 ticks. So, it sort of forces itself into tact and avian play. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just what I noticed. So yeah, slight nerf to War Hero is probably fine. And there's some interesting things you can do here. I know people who would pick this purely because they like having more options to bounce people with. Having MP, GP, and war trophies to bounce people is kind of fun. Anyways, Warrior. We have Warrior back with OME. I think that's very important because without OME based warriors, you don't have a clear answer to TMs in terms of offense. And so that limits setup quite a bit if you can't just sort of fix that problem with some warriors. This is sort of the standard warrior we've seen other ages with the better mercs, cheaper mercs, and OME. And their ability, Relentless Assault. For 10 ticks, see, it's really weird. They got things that are 6 ticks, 9 ticks, 1 tick, 10 tick, 12 tick. It's a little awkward. But that, most races can attack every 10 ticks without too much weirdness on racks and stuff. And so if you're lucky, you're getting this for 2 out of every 3 attacks. If, you're unlucky, maybe it's just 50% of your attacks. Your trad marches only convert 20% casualties into soldiers. It's nice. It's just the undead buff again. Free soldiers are nice, but it's not doing a ton. It's fine. Free soldiers. You need to be getting decent kills for that to even matter. Usually when you have high OME, you're getting decent kills though, so I don't hate it. It's not huge, it's not game breaking, it's not like, oh, I'm picking Warrior for that Warrior ability. You're picking Warrior just because you want OME. Anyways, I think the changes are pretty close to being fine. There's just some obvious big misses here. And I think if you can balance those out a bit, you've got the lookings of a decent age. Definitely need to fuck around with the TMs a bit. Mystic, Heretic, Rogue are all over the map. I think your undead needs a little bit of love to figure out what it's doing. I mean, I don't hate the idea that out of war they literally just fucking decay. Like, I think that's a sweet mechanic. But like, is there a way to actually turn that into a game people want to play? I don't know. Like you can't just have someone that's overpowered in war, but they're so underpowered out of war that they're gonna be too weak to war. Like that's just a little convoluted, I think. Orcs, yeah, they're still orcs, but we made it through an age with orcs, and I don't think anyone said that TMs were dead. And I like nerfing elf defense. I don't like buffing halfling defense. I like these new humans. I think I still prefer the human over the orc, so I still think human's your best attacker right now. Um, but I really liked human combined with tact, and with tact changes, I'm not 100% sure what I like with the human now, so I would have to do a little bit more soul searching on that. Um, Gnomes are trash. They need to be buffed. I don't know how you plan to buff them, but they are unpickable. Berry. I think the once a day Mystic Vortex is a little underwhelming. I'm not sure if I would change that ability or maybe make it every 12 hours or do a little something something. But I think Faye's in a decent spot. Elf, I think's in a decent spot. I think with 11-point D-Spec, they were too strong. I think Dwarf's in a decent spot, but I'm sad about the barracks change. Dryad, I think, is probably... I think Dryad Warrior's looking pretty strong with you just dump like 30 racks on them. Yeah. I'm thinking Dryad and Human are probably the way to go. I think, of course, Orcs and Avians are very strong as well, and Dwarves, so I think we have pretty good attacker balance. Um, I just think... I think Dark Elf is sort of in a shitty spot. Um, and I think Halfling's going to be a little overtuned. But racially, I think racially these changes are pretty good. It's just when you get into the nitty gritty of the personalities that it's completely random. So yeah, I think we've got a good chance for revised and finals to have something fun. It's just that right now there's, you know, it's going to be quicker to fix the things than I spent ranting about the things that are clearly wrong in the personalities. So it's, a little overdone for proposed, but I had a good laugh. Hopefully no one takes it too seriously and they have a good laugh too. I was Smiles. That was age 110. I think I went a fair bit longer than usual for proposed, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on Revised. Chill out.